Minnesota Vikings select.
He's a longtime NFL draft expert who's been sweating Vikings football since the Randy Moss era.
Straight cash, homie.
Welcome to Thor Talks Purple.
Welcome into Thor Talks Purple. It's a Friday edition today, and since we are out most of the week leading up till now, we weren't able to do a mock draft earlier in the week. So we are going to close this episode with a mock draft, and of course we'll have one again on Monday. But we have a couple of things to talk about at the top, don't we, producer AJ?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I mean, we like you said, we missed part of the week, but we got gifted some quarterback news yesterday. Now that you've had 24 hours to digest Carson Wentz re-signing with Minnesota Vikings, do you have any other thoughts or any other developing, I guess, news or anything that was parsed out throughout the day that maybe you want to touch on before we get into some other topics?
Yeah, Tom Pelissero was on K-Fan this morning and had in what I thought was a pretty interesting reporting or quote on the quarterback situation and sort of the upshot of the Wentz signing. And, when we talked about that yesterday, my concern was that, it's that you've decided in advance on an outcome, that it's not going to be a fair competition, that you had decided in advance. The team is saying, fair competition, and there's been multiple different reporters. Kevin Seifert was another one yesterday or this morning on ESPN, saying that it is going to be a competition, and the Wentz signing, is just sort of to augment that and make the room deeper. But here's was a quote from what Tom Pelissero said this morning on the radio. Quote, "There's a lot of ways that this could go. I don't see this going the way of," rabbit ears, quote, "Carson Wentz is the week one starter. It's much more likely that if Kyler beats out JJ's probably the 2, Carson's probably the 3. If Kyler beats out JJ's probably the 2, Carson's probably the 3. If JJ beats Kyler out and JJ starts, now you're figuring it out. Is Kyler the QB2? Are you trading Kyler? Are you elevating Wentz to QB2? But the Wentz signing is not burying JJ McCarthy as much as they, as in the Vikings, wanted optionality with the room. There's a lot of different things that can happen between now and September." I thought that was really interesting. Both again, respected reporter in the area sort of underlining, no, it will be a camp competition, in line with what the team's saying and what others are reporting. But I also thought that part was interesting of, if JJ beats Kyler out and JJ starts, is Kyler the QB2? Are you trading Kyler? Are you elevating Wentz to QB2? And then in the next sentence, he said that they wanted optionality with the room. And earlier in his comments, he was talking, they wanted the deep room, and he went to both the years where the Vikings had rash quarterback injuries. And obviously those are the 2 seasons of O'Connell's tenure that have not gone very well. But he went deep into this thing of, that idea of optionality. And there's a lot of things that can happen between now and September. And I thought that was pretty interesting, because when going back a couple weeks ago, when Judd and I were talking about an initial report that Adam Schefter had of, I expect the Vikings, to sign a veteran quarterback and also bring back Carson Wentz. And, and so we were sort of going through that. And, I just thinking through what that could mean. One of the things that I had brought up is it possible that this would be done because you're going to have the camp competition, and then you give yourself the flexibility potentially to trade the loser of that battle, right? And so the fact that Pelissero was even sort of brushing up against that, as a possibility in these comments, I thought that was interesting. Then I also thought it was interesting, he was saying, basically, if there's not a trade, his expectation is, it's the Kyler against JJ, and the loser obviously QB2, and Wentz would be QB3. So I thought that was interesting, and wanted to go back and sort of brush on that, because even though at this point, over the last couple of years here, you have a tough time believing some of the things that the Vikings have said, because we've gotten contradictions, and we've found out on the other side that some things, aren't true or whatever. And so, you have to be a little bit discerning with that. But the messaging coming out of the Vikings building right now is this. So it's going to be interesting to see the way it plays out. And, yesterday I was pretty I thought that the Wentz signing was signaling that they would now be willing to listen to trade offers on JJ McCarthy. That does not sound like what is happening, at least right now. Just something interesting to circle back on that.
So what would you say to me, somebody who is skeptical and kind of in the I'll believe it's a QB competition when I see it? Like, because I'm not sure, just because from my understanding too, reporters and Tom Pelissero, very respected, very, in the know. I like, if he reports something more times than not, I'm like, yeah, that is a fact, guaranteed. I just don't know if the administration themselves have enough trust in it, or at least have invested enough trust, like, for me to be like, yeah, if they're telling him, then that's exactly what they mean, and not we're trying to throw this smokescreen to buy us time for something that potentially we actually have planned down the road.
That's fair, and that's, of course, it was my initial trepidation with it, and still a lingering trepidation that the Vikings are saying the right thing, but that's not, actually what it is, because we have seen that here in the past. But all the indications right now are that that's what the Wentz signing was. It's to flesh out. So you have three playable quarterbacks. Going back to the 2 seasons that O'Connell had, where they got down, they had to start 3 different quarterbacks in a season. But then also the thing with opening up the options, of a potential August trade. If the loser of that competition, because that is where that starts to make a little bit more sense, right? Like if that not that it's going to happen, but that you retain your options, right? You keep sort of that wide open. So that all the stuff coming out again sounds great. That's what I hope is the case, that it's a true camp competition. They're going to keep an open mind with it. And in some ways, I mean, that just makes pragmatic sense to everybody, right? Like, you want to play the best quarterback, right? And so a true competition should get you to that. But the one other thing to watch out for once we get to camp is, another thing that I've been thinking about with this: can you do right by a quarterback competition that gets you to a winner, an objective winner, where everyone in the building would agree, yeah, that's the best quarterback here for this coming season, or at least for week 1? Can you do that early in camp, and then at the very end of camp, sort of turn the key and then construct your 2026 offense around the winner of QB1? Because that's sort of it's a delicate dance that you're going to have to do, of giving both the guys all the reps at the beginning of camp. They're letting them sort of battle it out for a couple weeks, and then the short turnaround of, if it's Kyler, the offense looks different than it will under JJ, right? So like, you're going to have to modify that and then tailor it to the winner of that QB1. But just interesting, some of the reporting coming out about this, and we'll see if Kevin O'Connell, if indeed we do go to camp, get that true competition, if he is able to sort of balance that true competition early on with molding the offense around the winner.
All right. Well, hey, Thor, it feels like it's been a while since, like, the tampering period and free agency and everything like that. It's only been a little over a week, but with that, the Vikings haven't really made that many moves to shore up and address some of the issues that I think you, myself, and a lot of other talking heads, fans realize are issues on the roster heading with the draft coming up here in a month. You still have stuff that has to be addressed, but there isn't, like, there's not free agents still on the board. Sure, there's not maybe some of the premier guys that some fans may have been hoping for, but there are some options out there that probably are able to be targeted by the Vikings that actually are an upgrade at certain positions. I tasked you last night. We were texting. I was like, hey, come up with a few guys and let's have you talk about why you think they might be a good addition. You brought 6 to the table, correct?
Yes, I got 6 potential, Vikings guys that, as the Vikings sort of wait this out, and they wanted to be patient, but they have these several holes, free agents that are lingering out there that could help potentially the 2026 roster.
Okay, well, let's start. I know we have a lot of needs that the Vikings have, but I'm excited to hear what you think are the biggest potential guys that they should be looking at here. So who's top on your list here first?
So of the six, one guy is on offense. That's a
Okay.
center. That's we're gonna
Yep.
kick it off with, and then we'll get into some defenders. But thinking about the center position, and then my hope that you're able to, from the rest of this offseason in fortifying that center position, that you're able to turn Blake Brandel back into the 5 position super utility backup on the offensive line. And so this signing would go sort of in that vein. And that's Titans, or former Titans at this point, center Lloyd Cushenberry. Lloyd Cushenberry was a teammate of Justin Jefferson on that amazing 2019 LSU team, so they know each other well. And I got the Spotrac market values on these guys, so you guys can just sort of think through. The $7.1 million is the estimated market value AAV for Lloyd.
I'm going to jump in and
Cushenberry.
cut you off here really quick, just because there was a little bit of a connection issue here. I didn't hear the actual name, and in case it was your internet and not mine, for the listeners and the viewers, I just want to make sure. Can you say the name one more time?
Oh, yeah.
It cut off right before you were about to say it.
Center Lloyd Cushenberry III from
Beautiful.
formerly of the Titans, but played again with Justin Jefferson in college at LSU. Cushenberry now is 28. He has plenty of starting experience in the pivot. His acquisition would send Brendel back to that utility role that we're looking for. If you can manage a short commitment to Cushenberry, so I'm sort of thinking like a 2-year contract. It's actually a nominal 1 year, like something where it's easy to get out of after 1 year. I still think you can take a center in the NFL draft, even if you sign him, take a center in the NFL draft with a middle round pick or so to compete straight up with him for that job. And then Brandel, get ready to be playing across the line in practices, because we're just getting you ready for that right out of the gate. And then, for me, Jurgens would be a cut at that point if you're able to acquire both of those guys. So that's the first guy.
Okay. All right. So that's the one center. Do you think he's a better option than maybe like some of the Logan Joneses or some of the other centers in the draft? Just because, in terms of like what he can bring to the table, I know we have lauded on this show like the high floor of a guy like Logan Jones, who isn't going to be of like by any means, I think, an early pick. So it doesn't make more sense in your mind to go free agency and save that pick to use somewhere else, or is center maybe not as much of a need here for us signing wise?
Yeah, it's I'm not going to say that it wouldn't be, because you still leave open the possibility of drafting a center. I think I would be more open, or cutting Jurgens, basically, like if I can acquire 2 guys and then I can put Brendel back into that other position, that's what I'm looking to do with that. And I think Cushenberry, what the Vikings are doing with the quarterback room, it's like we want to avoid the nightmare scenario where we have rash injuries in this room, and then we have to play someone that we never, ever envisioned in the preseason would have to start a game or go into a game or whatever. And we obviously had that with offensive line last year as well. And some of these ideas that I have, it's in deference not only of improving the starting lineup, but also fortifying that depth. That's why I'm so resolute on fix the center position in advance, so then you can kick Brendel back, because that's the thing that will fortify. That's why I'm so resolute about it. Because the offensive line depth simply must improve. Okay. And since no money's been spent on it outside of the Ryan Vandermark, I think we should have a doomsday clock behind me. The countdown to when the Bills have to answer the Vikings on the Ryan Vandermark. We might have
30 seconds to midnight.
Exactly. Have we taken down by the second? But outside, and we'll see on that. But the depth needs to improve. So that would also be sort of in the name of that. But no, it would not, for me, preclude taking a center as well in the draft.
Okay. How about defense? I know you said he was the one offensive sided guy. Let's go trenches on defense first and do those linemen.
Yeah, so Vikings need 2 interior defensive linemen, obviously, after releasing Jonathan Allen and Javon Hargrave. And so one of these couple veterans could be an option for that. And of course, we all expect the Vikings to be taking an interior defensive lineman pretty early in the draft, either Thursday or Friday night. But the 2 guys that I would toss out for this, and just 1 year sort of stopgap guys, but absolutely playable. The first one would coming over from inside the division, DJ Reader, formerly of the Lions. His Spotrac market value AAV is $3.8 million. So it's not going to cost you much. Probably get it done with a 1-year deal. Age 31 on DJ Reader, started 17 games for the Lions last year. He's a big fella, 6'3", 330 pounds. He can play him over the center. 20 pressures last year, was second of the interior defensive lineman on the Lions. And Reader ended up with a 72.6 PFF pass rush grade last year. He used to be an elite run defender. He definitely no longer is, but Reader can still give you 500 or so solid snaps. So that, and at a cheap cost for a team that needs interior defensive linemen. And then as far as Calais Campbell, Calais Campbell's my second one, formerly of the Cardinals. I didn't say the name yet. So he's the most expensive Spotrac market sort of estimate. Although I don't know that he would get this. We'll have to see. But their estimate on him was $10.9 billion. Now it's going to be a 1 year, right? Because Calais Campbell is going to turn 40 years old on September 1st. Welcome to the 40 Club, Calais, in advance from someone that got there a little over a year ago. But last year, so Campbell on that dead-end Arizona defense, he played 524 snaps last season and still had a really solid 72.2 overall PFF grade. He's a rugged, team-oriented run defender still, Calais Campbell is. And he gives you a little bit as a pass rusher, not nearly what, it used to be. But yeah, a guy that is going to play run defense for you, going to occupy his gap, and a veteran that is absolutely playable, could give you 500 solid snaps for 1 year, would be the other guy to toss out for the interior defensive line hole.
All right. And cornerback is always a talking point. We need to see a boundary corner go somewhere to the Vikings, either in the draft or through a free agent signing. And I know you mentioned you have two on your list here.
I do. So former Dolphins cornerback Rasul Douglas or former Titans cornerback L'Jarius Sneed are the two cornerbacks that I'm going to toss out for this. Rasul Douglas, we'll start with him. His Spotrac market AAV estimate is $4 million. He's 30 years old and now this is damning by faint praise, but he was easily the Miami Dolphins' best cornerback last season, which was for Rasul Douglas a strong bounce back because the year before, 2024, he really struggled with Buffalo. And then it was like, is Rasul Douglas going to be done? But he was back to being solid last year. Led the Dolphins in interceptions and pass deflections, had an overall 72.7 solid PFF grade for Rasul Douglas. And then as far as L'Jarius Sneed, interesting case here. L'Jarius Sneed was a guy that should have gone higher in his draft class. He was coming out of Louisiana Tech. They couldn't figure out, is he a safety? Is he a boundary cornerback? Is he a slot? And so the NFL typically in those situations is like, I don't know. Let's take a guy that we're more certain about at the one, who's not as good of a player, right? And so L'Jarius Sneed ended up being just a bonanza of a value for the Chiefs, which is the thing that got him paid huge money by the Titans. And L'Jarius Sneed gave the Titans nada the last 2 years for all of that money that he was paid. So I will. This is the biggest name on the list, but it's also do keep in mind it's been injuries and really nothing on the field the last couple of years. Struggled to stay on it with Tennessee. Sneed did. He appeared in 12 games only the last 2 seasons combined. A quad injury is what did him in last year. He was struggling with it like before the season, and then he started on the PUP list, and then he came back, played a couple games, and then he re-aggravated a quad injury. And so it was that sort of thing. But Sneed, he turned 29 in January, so still under 30. And he would ostensibly, if he is healthy and anywhere close to the vestiges of what we saw with the Chiefs, anything close, he would then team up theoretically here with Byron Murphy Jr. and Isaiah Rodgers in nickel packages. That would get Josh Metellus back to his move piece role, and it would get the first free agent signing, James Pierre, into the CB4 role that he is intended to play. That's, that was the contract that they gave him, special teamer CB4. And then in that scenario, you sign one of those two guys, either Douglas, Sneed, or another cornerback sort of that ilk. but that a guy that could play right away, that you're comfortable starting right away, or at least in nickel packages, you could still use, and I'd probably still advocate for the use of something like a round 5 pick on a cornerback, for depth purposes and developmental purposes. But you sign a guy like this that you could put on the field right away, you would greatly mitigate that need, as we head into the draft. But just speaking to Snead on the way out on this one,
Yeah.
2022 with the Chiefs, 77.7 PFF grade, 2023, 72.5. Last 2 years with the Titans, 2024, 36.3 PFF grade for Snead. That's low. That's about as low as you'll see. And then 2025 was 50.4. In 2023, is last year with the Chiefs on targets. When Snead was targeted in coverage, he allowed a 56.2 passer rating against, which is great, right? Sterling. The last 2 years of the Titans, 91.8, 2024. And AJ, hold on to your hat for this one, 2025. Now, it was brief, small sample, but he gave up 120 quarterback rating on targets. You and I might be able to post a lower one than that.
Oh my God.
So
he could have sat on the bench and done a better job. Like, somebody's going to just overthrow at some point.
He could have put one of those orange cones across from the receiver, and it would have been So again, it's risky, right? I mean, that's sort of the boomer bust one, and I have no idea what L'Jarius Snead's market is, and apparently Spotrac doesn't either, because he's the one guy on this list that they did not give a contract estimate for. So
okay.
We're sorting some of those things through. I think another thing with that is there was reports that the Chiefs would be interested in a reunion with Snead. You would think he would be interested in that. If is that going to go forward? We'll just have to see on that. But Snead I think is an option.
If it's between those two, I think I lean more towards Rasul Douglas. I mean, that kind of completes the Green Bay,
especially if cheaper, right?
Oh, big time. Yeah.
The
consistency on the field. I mean, Snead's played 12 games over the past 2 seasons. I think Douglas has played in at least 14 or 15 games each of the last 5 or 6 years.
Yeah.
I know he's a little older, but and then also the former Packer to eventual Minnesota Viking pipeline is completed there. So I don't know. We'll have to see. I like both those options. Snead is intriguing, but I think I would default to Douglas just for my own bias. But your final guy on your list here.
My final one, of course, going to the way back of the defense with the safety. If you were going to sign one before the draft, one that is. Now there's the safe. We got some slim pickings at some of these position groups, right? So I get it, but one that could be of interest that I was sort of intrigued by getting into his profile. Cowboys safety Donovan Wilson, whose Spotrac market value AAV is a prediction of 6.9 million, and you could probably get maybe 1 year on that. One of those where you can get a 2-year contract where you can get out after 1 year. He's 31 years old. This guy's a big hitter, a big box safety, physical kind of guy. He does have a lot of experience at free safety, although last year his coverage fell off a cliff. Now, it was a terrible Cowboys defense, and I'm sure a lot of the individual defenders would argue that they got stranded, but it does need to be stated, he was really bad in coverage last year. But he does remain a good run defender, really good pass rusher. He had 71 tackles and 2 interceptions last season. More of a box type safety. I don't know how much I would trust him in center field at this point, but hopefully that's something that the Vikings could get in the draft, and this could be more of a in the box type of a thing with Donovan Wilson. But I just thought another sort of one to toss out at a position group that right now is very thin, and it's in need of starters as well.
Yeah, and that position, as much as it is a need, I think the draft is probably the best way to probably tackle that issue the biggest for the Vikings, because as we've talked about and as we've shown on past shows, there's a lot of almost immediate starters there. And I know the one that the Vikings have been mocked to in that first round at pick 18 a lot is Oregon's Dylan Thieneman. But there is some backup options too. And with this is my segue into saying, let's get to a freaking mock draft.
Let's do it.
We haven't done one in a week and a half. It's been killing me here.
Yeah, let's do it.
I'll pop up PFF.com here, but we are going to go back and do Jonathan Greenard. We're going to trade him considering that is still something that the Vikings are looking to potentially do. There's been reports that they're very open to it. I know you had some reports as well that they are kind of feeling things out at Combine and seeing like, okay, what can we do moving him out? Because unfortunately, as good of a player as he is, they do have to get more cap compliant. So we'll do 7 rounds. Get up here.
And
the
are
Vikings.
and yeah, we're at kind of an impasse right now with that. The news on it is kind of petered out here over the past week, and he went past the deadline. They had a deadline where they had to give him a bonus, so they paid that out. Now, with the Viking, you're doing this sort of dual dance of negotiating with teams, but then also Greenard, him and his camp want to raise, right? And so I'm sure the team sort of, you have, birds in both hands, basically, of like, well, we could do this, an offer that looks, sort of like this through the trade route and acquire this back, but then you create this enormous hole. You're trading out this havoc wreaking defender in a defense that fetishizes that, or is there with the price tag there? Can we justify with what he is asking for? Knowing that Dallas Turner is behind him, can we go long term on a mega deal like that? So yeah, a lot of factors there, but until we get news the other way, I still I think we ought to shop Greenard to start the exercise.
Perfect. So with that, what teams do you want to maybe see that would be interested in him? I know we typically look down towards around the Patriots or the Seahawks in order and try to acquire something in that super late second round straight up. But what do you want to do here?
Yeah, one of those teams we could do. Yeah. Let's start there, and then we'll kind of see.
Okay, so Patriots straight up for pick 63 for Jonathan Greenard has a 49% chance to be accepted. Would you be suitable with that?
For their second.
Yes, right? Yeah. So for their pick 63 for Jonathan Greenard straight up.
Yeah, okay, let's do it.
There we go. Boom. So we're picking we have pick 63 now. Keep in mind this does probably raise the need for us to draft a edge rusher, which we have actually vacated and overlooked in past mocks where it's like, okay, we gotta get down to the 5th round. It's like, oh shoot, we might have missed the cream of the crop here. But I will start the draft, get us down to pick 18, and we will get on the clock here.
Top guys,
yeah, go ahead.
Oh, sorry. I was, just for folks out there, areas of need right now, and in lieu of the Greenard thing, defensive line, obviously interior defensive line, safety, cornerback, center, wide receiver 3, off-ball linebacker, another interior defensive lineman. So I consider those like the 7 biggies right now. Now, if you trade Greenard, edge 3, arguably, like could be that you could consider it the 8th, you could consider it a half down, like however you want to do that. And then secondary needs, offensive tackle depth. We're still pending the Vandermark thing. The doomsday clock for that's on the other side of the wall. Bring it up for the next episode. CJ Ham replacement. Tight end to marinate behind Hawkinson, a guy that potentially could play in the slaughter receiving type guy, and RB3 potentially as well, or competition for Scott potentially as well.
So just looking at the big board here, and I was a little shocked as some of the names that we don't see here right away. So I was scrolling up, something just to note. At pick 8, you have let's see here if I can get it. There we go. Pick 8, Caleb Downs goes to the Saints. Well, right before him at pick 7, the Commanders go Dylan Pieneman. So our top safety on the board right now is Emmanuel McNeil-Warren.
And the people out there, that would seem stunning, obviously, and if it happens, it seems stunning. I do think there's at least a path for Thieneman to pull that stunner here. He's had a fabulous draft process, and obviously last year going to Oregon, he was so good. But he is tested as an elite athlete. He has proven on the field he's both really good as a center fielder, and that you can also put him at the nickel. He's really good at both. And then with Caleb Downs, it's an in-the-box safety, a really, really, really good one. But it's an in-the-box safety who they discovered has some sort of degenerative aspect to a knee condition at the NFL Combine. And we are still waiting for clarification on that. There has been reports where respected reporters have said, teams I've talked to, that they haven't dinged him for that. But when those two things in conjunction, that Downs is more or less, you play him in the box, so not deep, right? And then what is the status of that knee? With Thieneman, you look at his profile, it's pretty clean. And so that's what would at least potentially open up that possibility of like this thing that would have seemed a month ago beyond a stunner. I'm not saying that it's going to happen, right? But I'm just saying that it's in the realm of possibility.
So for the names on the board here that might be of interest to us at pick 18 as the Vikings, Jermon McCoy, cornerback Tennessee, who I know you have repeatedly stated that the injury and the medicals and everything like that are a huge question mark for him. Emmanuel McNeil-Warren, the safety out of Toledo, is still on the board. Avion Terrell, cornerback out of Clemson. Let's see here. Omar Cooper Jr. with the departing of Jalen Naylor. Wide receiver 3 is something they're going to have to be looking at here. Cassius Howell, Texas A&M edge rusher. TJ Parker.
I think here, I think we skip down the board. The top options available to us, nothing grabs me. I think we can move down here just a little bit, and see if we can recoup some more stuff. Try to hit all of our different holes. But yeah, I want to go down, and then Avion Terrell would be a possibility at that pick. McNeil-Warren, if he gets down, there's different, there's a grouping of guys on the board that, to me, there's not a huge differentiation. So I think we can do something like this.
So based on what we can do, it's not probably the closest jump down, but the closest thing is the Bears at pick 25, the 49ers at 27, and then we would be trading out of the first round entirely. So I'd say let's try going with the Bears here to start.
Yeah, let's do it. Yeah.
So they have, after the first round, they have picks 57, 60, and 89 for top 100. Do you want to try targeting that 57?
Yeah. What does the percentage go to there?
It's a 44% chance to move back 7 and pick up that second round pick. So we could do 18 for 25 and 57. I could also see if they want to throw in 89, if we throw in I don't know.
Yeah, see if you could do that with like multiple of those picks later on, because now we got kind of a cachet. Maybe it won't get there.
No, but if I do, oh, here we go. Sorry, I was trying to do that. So if I do pick 18 and 163, trying to get 25, 57, and 129, that's a 39% chance. You want to try that? If they decline it, we can just go 18 for the 2.
Yeah, let's do it.
All right.
Toss in our last pick first on this one, and then we'll modify it like you said.
Okay, so 244, I'll throw in there. That gets the job done. So we acquire picks 25, 57, and 129. So we move back 7 spots and send Chicago 18, 163, and 244. We'll go down here. They traded up and took Emmanuel McNeil-Warren. So unfortunately, we will have to see him in the division for quite some time. Avion Terrell, we miss out on. Jermon McCoy, the top guy on the board here.
Oh, man. They really want us to take Jermon McCoy now.
They really do. Here, I'll give you a scroll here. We do have a few trade down options as well. Texans want to move up from 28, Dolphins at 30, Jets at 33, Titans at 35, Browns at 39.
Let's see a quick scroll of that board first.
Absolutely. So Jermon McCoy, cornerback Tennessee, Cassius Howell, edge Texas A&M, Caden Proctor, tackle Alabama, Caden McDonald, defensive lineman Ohio State, TJ Parker, edge out of Clemson, Max Iannaccio, tackle Arizona State, Denzel Boston, wide receiver Washington, Caleb Banks is there, defensive lineman out of Florida, Peter Woods, Clemson defensive lineman, Colton Hood, cornerback Tennessee.
I still like the board here for us. I want to trade down with the Jets to that top pick in the second round. And Terrell's off the board now, but you have those 2 top interior defensive linemen in Banks and Peter Woods. And if both of them somehow got picked off beforehand, there's other options out there as well that are attractive here. So, draft analysts have talked about this. I totally agree with this. This is one of those drafts where, like, between, once you get out of like the top 15, the difference in some of these guys between guys that are going to go like at 60, there's not a huge discrepancy in this class. There is depth on day 2, But the thing that I've brought up a bunch, you run out of blue chippers quick, and then you have sort of this big pool of guys that we know can play, that we think can play immediately in the NFL. But that's one of the reasons that I'm going to be even more open, and I hope the Vikings are open as well, depending on who falls down. Obviously, if someone falls down that shouldn't be there, you submit the card. But the trade down possibilities, I think in this draft in particular, and with the Vikings having as many holes that they do, is something that they should consider strongly.
So if we're trading down with the Jets here, they have pick 33. Following that, they have 44, and then they move into the 100s. If I send 25, we could try to do like 97 and 129, offer that for 36% chance, or it's more than likely they'll accept 25 and 82 for a 48% chance to get 33 and 44.
Try that first one that you had up, and then we can go to the second one if they say no to this one.
Sounds good. Okay, yeah. So they don't go for that. I'll do 25 and 82 for 33 and 44, and they take that one. So we move back again here. I'll get down to pick 33.
Man,
so
day 2 is going to be a bonanza. The draft party at Mystic Lake, they might be disappointed we've traded out of a selection on Thursday night at this point, but Friday night we might have to run it back because now we have so many picks on day 2.
So since we traded back, Jermon McCoy gone, Colton Hood gone, Peter Woods gone. So that is setting up Caleb Banks very nicely. Our updated picks are looking like in the second round, and hold on to your hats for this one. Picks 33, 44, 49, 57, and 63. So we have 5, honestly, very high value picks, despite it being day 2 now. So at pick 33 here, Thor, do you want to make a selection or do you want to trade back again?
Yeah, I think we're going to make a selection here, and I'm pretty sure it's going to be Caleb Banks. But would you just give me a quick scroll down on the just to see the other guys there?
Yep. So, and then keep in mind, we are on the clock 11 picks later. I can always go slower too if you want to try to trade up.
All good. Yeah, we are going to take Caleb Banks here. Now, Caleb Banks, on physical ability alone, he should go in the top half of the first round. But last season, struggled with a foot injury, and then ends up breaking it at the NFL Combine. Now we're waiting back for word on that. The story is that he's going to be, good to go for training camp and everything like that. But what did the doctors say in there? The elevated risk on that, it presents the possibility, even if it's not catastrophic news, just because of the recurrence of a foot injury on a 335-pound, 6'6" monster that moves around like that. Like, it is, because it's so uncommon, his movement for someone that big, it stands to reason there's a lot of stress on those feet, right? And so that's one thing. Our medical team, we like block off your afternoon. I want to hear everything. I want you to go back, and I want to see case histories of medical documentation of, all the different stuff. I want to know everything I can about Caleb Banks' foot. But like, with what we know right now, I am comfortable with, the risk here, because we have traded down to the top of the second round. The physical ability is just so great here. So this is a dice roll, but it's one with extremely high upside. So let's do it. Caleb Banks.
All right, Caleb Banks, our first selection in this mock draft at pick 33, trading back a couple times, back on the clock at 44. And right at the top here, we have a few guys that we have touched on before. Lee Hunter, defensive lineman out of Texas Tech. D'Angelo Pons, cornerback, Indiana. If I scroll down a little bit here, we have Keith Abney, the second cornerback out of Arizona State. AJ Haulcy, safety out of LSU. Malachi Lawrence, somebody you've touched on before. So we do have 44, 49, 57, 63, all here in the second round still remaining.
A part of me really wants to take Lee Hunter here and just go YOLO and say we're gonna go out and we're gonna be Arby's at the beginning of this draft. We're gonna get all the beef up there up front. Lee Hunter, another interior defensive lineman, but again, the Vikings need 2. Now, will that be the case once we get to the draft? Hopefully not. Even, again, a signing of a 1-year Calais Campbell or a DJ Reader. There's a couple other guys like of that ilk to mitigate that need a little bit. But obviously, where we're sitting here a month plus out, we don't have that. So That's where I'm leaning right now with the value on the board would be going the second interior defensive lineman. I do think you have to get two guys that can contribute right away. If you don't get one in free agency, you're going to have to prioritize getting a couple early in the draft. Maybe not this early, but we do have all these day 2 picks. And that interior defensive line class, it does drop off, whether you want to say after Darrell Jackson Jr. From Florida State, somewhere around there. And then, you can take shots on guys, some of them situational, like Grayson Halton, some people like, he was a part-time snap guy though at Oklahoma. Now, I think the Vikings could have a lot of fun with a guy like that, but you're probably not going to be starting as a rookie in the NFL when you were a part-time player in the SEC last year. Right. Mm-hmm. So, I don't know, AJ, unless you want to push back, I might be starting this exercise with 2 interior defensive linemen.
I don't mind it. Just for the sake of like this exercise, we're going based off the fact that right now they need 2. You have to. And if the board falls like this, if we were to work this out, it makes a lot of sense to go grab, like we did with our first pick, Caleb Banks. And then it kind of just makes sense. Like he's right there. I mean, granted, we're only a few picks past what his projected value is here, but Lee Hunter on the board at 44 feels like almost too good of a pick to pass up, considering we're going to be back on the clock in 5. And I think the jump from him to the next D lineman is more significant than maybe some of the other stuff here remaining, who might still be around by the time that we're back on the clock. So I think we just go with Lee Hunter.
Let's do it. Yeah, let's lock in Lee Hunter. And speaking to the defensive line class, Banks and Woods, of course, at the top, and then Hunter, McDonald, Christian Miller, Dom Orange, Big Citrus, my boy. Yeah. Those are guys I'm comfortable with. Like those are. I should say those are guys that I like, right? And so I just listed 6 interior defensive linemen. Then you have Darrell Jackson Jr., so maybe he'd be around 7, but that's where you start dropping off to either situational guys or, maybe guys that have a little bit lower of a ceiling, getting into like the Haltons, speaking to the thing of the potential split snap kind of a guy, platoon kind of a guy, at least early on. So I do think it's nice that we have gotten 2 of this class's best 3 or 4 interior defensive linemen with what we've done here at the start. Now we can focus on other needs.
So we missed out. We're missing out on Chris Bell, Chase Basantis, Jeremy Bernard, and Keontae Scott. We do have a few trade offers here. We could go back from pick 49 down 3 spots to 52, trading with the Packers. The Chargers are there at pick 55. The Jaguars at 56. Yet to make a pick. They want to move up. And then the Rams at 61 are also there in the second round. Here's a look at the board, though. D'Angelo Pons, the top cornerback there. R. Mason Thomas, the Oklahoma edge rusher. Keith Abney, the second out of Arizona State. The cornerback, Gabe Jacobs, edge out of Illinois. AJ Haulcy, safety LSU is there. Darian Price down a little bit here. Jennings Dunker, tackle out of Iowa, projected to go maybe about 10 picks or so from now.
I want to take your boy AJ Haulcy here, AJ Frederickson Haulcy. So now we have addressed the safety need with the LSU safety here. A guy that played at 2 schools before that. He had quite a journey to get here. Houston was the last one prior to LSU, but he proved the concept everywhere that he went. He was in a really good LSU secondary this year, and he was one of the driving forces with that. Him and Daylen Island. Daylen was another transfer. LSU, they didn't get everything right last year, but they got a couple of those transfers on defense right for sure, particularly in the secondary. But Halsey's going to come in and start for the Vikings right away and address the safety need.
All right, so we'll go with AJ Haulcy there out of LSU acquiring the center. The safety. We'll come back along the clock here for our next pick at 57. Just to recap, because it has been a little bit of a whirlwind of the first round and a half. Trading back again. We get into the second round. Our picks so far in the second round have been Caleb Banks at 33, Lee Hunter at 44, AJ Haulcy most recently at 49. Back on the clock now here at pick 57.
Yeah, we got some guys that we like up there.
Perfect. So I'll kind of give you a scroll here. Jadarian Price is there. Chris Brazel, the second out of Tennessee, the wide receiver. Jay Golday, linebacker. If we're trading Greenard. Actually, no, with Eric
Golday
Wilson.
Yeah, we with Wilson, but
Yeah.
great insurance there, and
Right.
Cashman, he misses games as well. So like that's why I feel that the off-ball linebacker thing that is a legitimate need
Okay.
for the Vikings. Yeah. And a guy that could compete with Eric Wilson in camp and maybe end up in a timeshare there because Wilson's so good at specific things, case specific. So you could do kind of split kind of snaps as far as that goes.
Does that make sense then if you like for this pick here, the 6'4", 240 linebacker out of Cincinnati, a Jay Golday, or would you want to look somewhere else here? Skylar Bell is on the board, Traden Stukes. We're gonna need a cornerback at some point. I know you have been high on him, but is he the right pick in this area? Is I think the question.
Can you toss up the corners real quick just so we can get a kind of a feel for the temperature of what's left there?
Yeah, so it goes Traden Stukes, Davison Igbinosun, Chandler Rivers, Devin Moore, Daylen Everette, Malik Muhammad, Will Lee III, Takario Davis, Jalen Kilgore, Charles Demings.
Okay, yeah. I think I'm gonna wait for now. And I made this point before, but I like Stukes, but Stukes is a nickel defender.
Gotcha.
Yeah, I might have to advocate for Trevor to break apart the nickel defenders from like safety and corners because it's like but Stukes, I think I have him as the number one nickel, or I'm sorry, number 2 nickel in the class behind D'Angelo Pons. But both those guys are awesome. Keontae Scott, another example of this, Chandler Rivers, Bud Clark, Jalen Kilgore. I consider them all nickel defenders. So yeah, let's take we'll look at corner, we'll look at the center. You could toss receiver in there as well. And I think you could toss in edge as well. This is around a scenario of a Greenard trade where you'd start considering that, I think, after hitting some of the primary needs. I still do think we have a couple bigger needs in that, but let's just see where the value is.
Do you want the linebacker position up there too?
We just oh no, we haven't taken Golday yet.
No,
you don't have to put it up because I know that it's Golday. It's Golday against the fielder. I know.
Okay, so here's from that positioning filter. Chris Brazel II is there. Skylar Bell, both wide receivers. Traden Stukes is there. Joshua Josephs, the edge out of Tennessee. Caleb Tiernan, Derek Moore. Let's see here. I'm not sure. There's some names. Yeah, go ahead.
Let's go with Golday here. Golday, I'm comfortable that he's going to come in and probably start right away. Eric Wilson's still going to get plenty of snaps. Very good pass rusher coming in. Situationally there, obviously a lot of special team stuff. And again, the team needs a third off-ball linebacker because Wilson's over 30. He's on the wrong side of 30 now, and then Cashman with the durability stuff. So this would be a good pick to address that.
Okay, so Jay Golday, our selection there, and then we are back on the clock with pick 63 that we originally acquired via the Patriots before we even started this mock, trading Jonathan Greenard there straight up. So on the board here, let's see, I will throw back up tackle and lineman on the offensive side. I'll throw up cornerback. I'll throw up edge. Traden Stukes, Derek Moore is there, Danny Dennis Sutton, Davison Igbinosun, Keelan Rutledge, Romello Height, Connor Liu. We do have 3 trade back options as well, going down 3 spots to the Titans at 66, going to the Bengals at 72, and the Ravens down at 80.
And the selection we're at right now is we're at 60 something?
63. So we are this is what? This is the second to last pick of the second round.
Okay. Yeah. Just scroll for me one more time there.
Yeah. This is just every position here. Let's see here. Zachariah Branch, I know you've talked about previously. I don't know.
Yeah, he's a manufactured touch guy. I don't like him. I don't like Deion Burks, even a worse example of a manufactured touch guy. And we're going to be looking for a bigger bodied kind of boundary receiver. So that's why I'm sort of staying away from them. I do think, AJ, go back to the trades because I don't.
Like we could get what is essentially a top, it's essentially pick 100 there. Bengals have 72 and 110. The Ravens have, oh God, that's such a big jump. So if we go,
let's try that first one.
Yeah, so if we go 63, we're gonna want 101, and we'll throw in like, oh God,
Could you toss in the 196 and then one of the ones that are in the 200s?
Yeah, that feels like they should have to accept that. But anyways, I'll try this. It's a 30% chance. I think with the trade up, like it makes sense that they should have to overpay, but I guess they're valuing that pick 101 higher than I expected.
We could also toss in our very last one just as give it one more shot.
Yeah, 35%. Yeah, still not going. Okay. So what if I drop down and instead of these three, I swap this back to 142 and 144, and then we throw in like 190, 234.
Okay.
There we go. So we acquire 66, 142, and 144 from the Titans in exchange for 63 and 234. We'll go down to our next pick. We actually had pick 66. We got 66 in that trade, I should say. So we are back on the clock now here with the second pick in the third round.
AJ, show the folks what we have on your picks so far. Just just
as a recap.
Yeah. Lots of defense.
If you, for some reason, started the show halfway through, you might be asking, why is there no first round picks? Restart the show, you'll figure out why. Caleb Banks was our pick at pick 33, defensive lineman out of Florida. Lee Hunter, we double up on DLs with the Texas Tech Lee Hunter at 44. AJ Haulcy, the safety at LSU at 49. And then Jake Golday, the pick at 57, linebacker Cincinnati. After a small trade back, we are now back on the clock here at 66 here in the third round.
So let's toss up both the offensive line, cornerback, wide receivers, and edge here. Let's see what we got.
All right, and cornerback. There we go.
I know some people are going to be mad at me for passing on Jadarian Price at the end of the second. We have a strong Jadarian Price hive in town here, but I just feel like with Aaron Jones and back now with Mason, and of course you have Scott as well. I don't preclude at all the selection of a running back. They absolutely might. I don't know though if they're going to second round, right? And hop the line, there to take a guy like prioritize that over some of these other sort of acute holes that they have. So that's why for me, the one guy on day 2 that I would be interested in is if Jonah Coleman falls into the latter part of the third round, because to me that's a huge steal. So that's the one where and a guy that I think could start and would start for the Vikings for years. Yeah. So that's one where I think about, or really late with one of the situational guys like Desmond Reed from Pitt as a receiving option, or Heidenreich, like one of those guys like for that. But yeah, that I just wanted to explain why that's why I decided that.
Mm-hmm. All right. So where do you want to go here with this pick here at 66?
Keep scrolling down. Let's see the offensive linemen, where that's at. I see Rutledge there. Lou's still on the board. So we still have a little bit of depth there, it looks like.
Yeah.
How many cornerbacks are above Everette? I just want to make sure that I don't, because Everette is a guy that I would like to get.
3.
We still have a couple, and I like Muhammad too. For the Vikings, I like them more than the 3 guys above them on that list there. One of them being, a nickel.
In terms of trades, just the Falcons are interested in dealing with us going back from 66 down to 79. We could pick up something potentially in that early 100 if we want to throw in something, but otherwise, yeah, that's how the board's looking right now.
Go interior offensive line.
There you go. Here's a scroll.
Yeah, I kind of want to pick off Logan Jones. And man, they Parker goes up and down. You see where they had Parker? I swear they had Parker in the third round last time, but then earlier in the process, I felt like we were getting him late, like in the 6th. But now it seems like he got knocked down a little bit again. Now that, kind of 4th round value there, still very much interested in Parker. We could do a small trade down here just because the center and the receivers, like in the boundary cornerback, like they're guys that it seems like we can wait just a little bit on. So if we could have the Falcons one.
Yeah, I mean, they're willing to essentially give us the rest of their draft to move up here to 66.
I'd take that.
Okay. There we
All
go.
right.
So we send 66, move back 13 spots, and get 79, 114, 197, and 231.
We are going to have to at some point make one other one where because we have a whole bunch of picks late, where we package them to then get one higher pick. But we'll pick a couple here first. You don't have to do that till later on.
So back on the clock here at 79. If you did still, Logan Jones is still there. There's still quite a bit of guys here that probably interest us.
Toss up the corners again for me.
Yep.
Got to check in.
Go. So just one's gone since then. Daylen Everette's still on the board. Now it makes more sense, I think, too, as well.
I think this is the time to pop Daylen Everette from Georgia. And a guy who at the beginning of the season coming out of camp, he was a little bit dinged up and he struggled early in the season. And then it's like, what could happen with his stock? There were some questions. What is the athletic profile as well? But when he sort of got into the season and got healthier, then you started to see the Daylen Everette that we had seen in the past. This is a guy, you look back at the two early mock drafts last year, he was in some of the first rounds, in them. So we get him here in AJ. What is this? The third round?
Pick 15 of the third round.
Yeah. And if he's not a second rounder, he's going to be a third rounder. So, this is pretty good value here for the boundary cornerback. And then also he tested really well, assuaging the concerns about the measurables there. So Everett's a guy that I think could play right away, get on the field early. So let's take him here.
All right. So Everette, the pick at 79. We're on the clock next at 97. And second guy on the board there is Logan Jones. Jonah Coleman
there's
below
Jonah
him.
too. The pick right after this, where are we?
We go from 97 to 114, so we could try to just move back up too. I could throw it on slow, and we could do something here. Yeah, we're not gonna do that.
All right. Okay. Yeah. Let's end up doing that. Let's take Logan Jones is the one that I wouldn't be able to live with missing out on here. The Iowa center. So we're gonna take Logan Jones and then go slow, AJ. And then let's pause it to try to trade up for a pick to get Jonah Coleman.
It's tough to go back and look here, but like they're listing running back as a need of the Steelers. That might be the one where we almost have to just either right away with the Eagles or with the Steelers, just pause it and pop it.
Let's pause it on the Steelers.
Okay, sounds good. So I'll take Logan Jones here. Give me an option to, there we go. All right. So if I want to do that, we're going to do 114. How about like 190? No, 142, but then we get in return.
Well, so I'm looking here to do like a 3-for-1, with 3 of our picks going that way because we just have so many.
Gotcha. So instead of,
what I mean?
Yeah. So instead of that, let's do.
I wouldn't see if you can do a lower pick than 114 as our sort of headliner there.
What if I do,
and then move up the ancillary picks.
So I could try 142, 144, and 196 for this 99 that has a 28% chance.
Toss in that 231 on RM. What does that go to?
48.
Is their last pick? Is that what is the Steelers' last one?
237.
Okay. All right. Yeah. Let's offer this.
All right. And there we go. We are on the clock. And is this where we're just?
I love me some Jonah Coleman.
There we go. So we're just gonna pop Jonah Coleman. Love it. While I make the pick, you want to just give me your 5-paragraph summary real quick of why he's the picker.
Yeah, he's just an all-time bowling ball back. Let me pull up the measurements on him, but it's all like he's like a trash compactor, and he's built so low to the ground, and it's just muscle on muscle on muscle with this kid. And he has the power, and he has the agility with it, and a bunch of contact balance. He measured in 5'8" and an eighth, 220 pounds, but he plays heavier than that, 220. A 22-year-old Jonah Coleman, and has been contributing at the power four level at this point for years. My comp on him is Doug Martin, the muscle hamster, for those familiar with him. The other name we evoke, now this is further down the continuum, but Maurice Jones-Drew is another guy that comes up. I don't think that Coleman has that kind of juice. Athletic juice, but the agility and the power, and then a guy where the skill set is so well rounded with Jonah Coleman, including being arguably the class of best pass blocking running back, and he also can catch and handle volume as a runner. So I think the value is strong here.
Just to recap here as we come up on pick 114. So far, we had the Vikings have selected Caleb Banks out of Florida, Lee Hunter out of Texas Tech, AJ Haulcy out of LSU, Jake Golday, the linebacker out of Cincinnati. In the third round, we've selected Daylen Everette, cornerback, Georgia, Logan Jones, the center out of Iowa, and most recently trading back up to acquire Jonah Coleman, the running back out of Washington. Now our remaining picks are looking like 114 and 129 in the fourth round, nothing in the fifth round, and then we have pick 197 in the sixth round, and then 235 of round 7.
Okay. So needs, because it's been a whirlwind mock, but needs still primary at the top, wide receiver 3, and then edge 3, right? Because recall the trade of Greenard. So those would be the top 2, and then ancillary ones behind that, an offensive tackle for development and for depth, the CJ Ham replacement, although we'll do that at the end, and then tight end to marinate behind TJ Hawkinson. So those are 5 needs. I think we have 4 picks. So some point we could maybe try to break a pick in half, but I like where we're sitting right now.
Yeah, so at pick 114, the closest thing move back wise would be 132. I don't really like that personally. So
let's pick.
Of the guys here, I mean, I know you talked to him, and then I hate that hold on one sec. Unfortunately, it like reset my filters here, but Cage Casey, who you talked to, I believe it was a Senior Bowl. You talked about him and kind of broke the news that he was going to be testing out, working, potentially kicking inside. Is that maybe your developmental guy there? Who knows? In terms of, let's see what else we need. You said wide receiver.
Yeah, wide receiver, edge.
Thank you, edge. Yep.
And then you could also toss up tight end. I'm kind of curious, since we haven't checked in on that position, like who's there right now.
So top guys on the board: wide receiver out of Ole Miss, Dazon Stribling, Billy Scrout, the guard out of Notre Dame, Mikhail Kamara, edge out of Indiana, Cage Casey, tackle Boise State, Tyreek Sapp, edge out of Florida, Brian Parker II, tackle Duke, Justin Jolie, tight end North Carolina State, Reggie Virgil, wide receiver Texas Tech. Let's see here: Bo Stevens, guard Iowa, Jacobe Lane, wide receiver USC, Mason Rieger, edge out of Wisconsin, Trey Zune III, tackle Texas A&M.
I think I don't think we have taken this guy in one of these exercises yet. So this might be a first. Have we taken Jacobe Lane yet, AJ? The USC wide receiver?
Way back in some of the very earlier ones, yes. Because if my memory serves me correctly, he at one point was like a late second rounder. Based on these trends, and then he's kind of dropped off. And I think at one point in this drop off, it was like we grabbed him when he slipped way later than he should have.
Yeah, Jacobe Lane, the reason you could get him here, and AJ, right now we're in the 4th round,
yeah, pick 14 of the 4th.
Yeah, this is a guy that has a lot more physical ability than this pick would indicate, but Jacobe Lane declared for the draft a year early, something that is a year earlier than we expected, something that's becoming rarer and rarer in the NIL era that we find ourselves in. But because of that, he is going to go a round or 2 lower probably than, maybe he would have, maybe even 3 rounds lower than he might have been able to had he gone back to USC for one more year. But it's a fascinating kind of buy early on a prospect. Here's what he measured in at 6'4.5", Jacobe Lane, 200 pounds. So he's very, very tall and rangy, but very skinny. So, I call him a pogo stick, but young, like I mentioned, one of the youngest players in this receiving class on draft day. He's going to be just past the 21.5 mark. right? Like, of age there, but tested as a 9.38 RAS athlete, 93rd percentile there, 4.47 speed, 40-inch vertical on a guy that again is 6'4.5", and you have almost 33-inch arms there and over an 80-inch wingspan. So closer, kind of like a baby offensive tackle with some of those dimensions with the long arms there. Big catch radius on Jacobe Lane. And recall the reporting after Naylor left around town here that the Vikings, in looking for this wide receiver 3, that they wanted to get a little bit bigger for the boundary, right? And that's something that Jacobe Lane certainly would do. Now we got to get you in the weight room, and there's some refinement to the game as well. Of course, we got to keep building you up and develop you. But like I said, interesting ball of clay. Like the value here for the Vikes. So let's pop Lane.
Perfect. So Lane at 114, back in the clock at 129. Definitely some options here. We do have a trade option with the 49ers. They have 133, 138, and 139. So we would move back, what is that, 3-4 spots at the most. Otherwise, the Raiders at pick 134 have some later.
I'll do the move down 4 if they give us like a 7th, any pick in the 7th. Because I want to get back to we had one less pick than we had a need. So I did want to do a 1 for 2.
Yeah, sorry, the 49ers, they only have 133, 138, and 139 here. So if we go with the Raiders, 134, like we could do 208 from Buffalo. That's a 50-50 shot to be accepted.
Let's do that.
Cool.
Great.
And there you go. So we'll just move back down here.
And we have just as many picks as we have needs now, because we should have 4 picks left, right? And I want to hit edge, offensive tackle, fullback, and then tight end.
So if I do offensive tackle, tight end, edge, here's what that's looking like right now. Jack Endry is top tight end on the board. Jagger Burton, the top lineman. Let's see who else is here. And then NaDame Tucker, who I'm not sure I've ever said that name on this show yet, the edge out of Western Michigan, is the top edge rusher on the board.
We're going to be taking that name that you haven't said on the.
Really? Okay.
We might have taken him in one other. I can't remember. NaDame Tucker. It hasn't been too many. But so unorthodox kind of player here. But
he's got really good grades.
Really good grades. I mean, this kid was dominant in action. Tucker, so 6'2", 247. He's on the smaller side, and the athletic profile is just sort of like solid, or decent. 7.1 RAS. He was 67th percentile on-field mover. Does have an above average for the class, 40 time, 4.73, 163, 10 yard is also pretty good. But yeah, just dominant on the field. Now it is coming up from the MAC for sure, but when you see stuff like 14 sacks, 37 run stops, 41 hurries, 61 pressures, in the FBS football, it is impressive. And this is a guy where older and a guy that fits the 3-4 outside rushing linebacker kind of mold and experience. And so for those reasons, I do think it's a guy, at least, because what we're thinking of here, it's the depth thing. You're mixing and matching in behind, Dallas Turner and AVG there. And this is a guy who is polished. He has a deep grab bag of pass rushing moves. Very clever guy. And he'll get you on stilts. He'll throw one thing at you, and then a couple plays later, he's going to feign that thing, and now he's going to, spin the other way. And he's sort of a whirling dervish in that way. But yeah, let's take Tucker.
All right, and help me out here. Is it NaDame or NaDame or what?
Pretty sure it's NaDame, but we're still working on the pronunciation game.
Perfect. We'll tell you what. When he gets drafted by the Vikings, we will make sure we learn the correct pronunciation there.
We definitely will.
Speaking of that, while this loads to the next pick, do you see the who was it? Was it ETN? Is not ETN actually? It's Achan.
I did see that, and someone on Twitter had one of the funniest jokes that I've seen in a while, where the day when everyone was bringing up that the Dolphins should trade, Devon Achan, that he was going to tell his new team that it's actually pronounced ETN, which I was just dying. But yeah, it was kind of interesting there. Yeah.
Anyways, here pronunciation wise, we've got some guys that I know that you like Tanner Koziol on here at the board, one of the top tight ends available.
Yeah, it's Koziol. That's the pick here.
That's the
I love
pick?
this guy. Yeah, like as a guy that behind Hawkinson again, that's his game. Now, is he as good of a prospect as Hawkinson was coming out of Iowa? Of course not. But as the big slot kind of mismatch guy, as a guy that within 10 yards of the line of scrimmage, he's going to paper cut the heck out of defenses. He's really big, knows how to use his body, huge catch radius, and sure hands on Tanner Koziol. So we'll bring him in.
All right. So 2 picks remaining. We need to get our backup
offensive tackle, which now we're going to be unfortunately we're going to be scraping the bottom of the barrel with this tackle pick, but
that's all right. That's all right. And then we need your CJ Ham replacement, correct?
Yeah, and you can take off interior offensive lineman because I feel like we really have to get the true outside guy. So we'll just end up seeing what is available to us there.
Perfect. I'm just going to do that then because I think we're going to know that it's going to be probably like a Nowakowski or something like that at 235. Here's your look at tackles, though, as I'll scroll down here. And you are correct.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely, we're at the bottom of the barrel. I'm going to shoot my shot on a guy that people are going to call me a homer on. I want to take Enrique Cruz Jr. from the University of Kansas. PFF's probably not going to love it because they have him down there. But I think Cruz is super fascinating for this reason. Now, AJ, you saw the bottom of the barrel nature of the offensive tackles that we were considering. Now, consider this on Enrique Cruz Jr., who is very, very little known. 6'5.5", 313 pounds, had the perfect 10 RAS score with his athletic testing in the pre-draft process. Tested absolutely amazing. 4.9, 440, high end for an offensive tackle. 1.74, 10 yard split, high end. 35-inch vertical was one of the biggest in this class. He got over 9 in the broad. That was way above average in this class. And then AJ, this kid, the on-field athleticism when they're playing with the chips, he is a 99th percentile in-game athlete. So you have the 100th percentile in shorts, the 99th on the field confirmed. This guy is a crazy good athlete. And he was really good on the field last year as well for Kansas. Now, is he a finished product? No, he's not. The technique with the pass blocking in particular, he's a better run blocker, though, than maybe you would think. And especially the zone concepts and stuff like that, and climb out to the second level. You can move him around, you hit the outside shoulder on a guy, etc. The technique with the pass pro is the next sort of step of his evolution. But all the athleticism in the world for this kid, he has length as well. For a guy where just under 6'6" there, but he has almost 35-inch arms and has almost an 83-inch wingspan. Hands 10.5 inches as well. I think this is a fascinating guy, and if he was in round 7, I think he ends up going higher than here. But this would be a fun, sort of shot on upside late.
All right, so Enrique Cruz Jr. here, the pick, and then our final selection at 235. I will go find him for us.
Yeah.
They're
taking him earlier now.
He went at 229. Riley Nowakowski, not an option, I guess. So where do you want to go?
That's totally fine. We're going to bring in JJ's old buddy, Max Bredeson, the best just pure blocker in the class. Koziol, you're developing you as the receiver. Bredeson, you are a hammer. That's it. You're going to be a sledgehammer for us. Do that kind of stuff around the goal line, the lead blocker. This guy's going to secure blocks for you, play special teams as well. But yeah, that's what we're going to do there.
Let's see. I was going to see if I can.
Oh, you want to try to break it into 2?
I was going to say, do you want to get your Thorson?
Well, the last one, because they signed Johnny Hecker, so we're not going to.
Oh yeah, we don't even need that then. Yeah. Okay. Well, yeah. Let's just go Max Bredeson. We'll put a ball on this.
Bredeson. Bam.
I mean, we're coming up on an hour 15 here, so I'm sure people.
But we had to hit every single need, and I think that we did.
I think we did. Yeah. So here we'll go through it.
It was a wild ride, but we checked every box here.
So a couple of moves before we actually make a pick. We trade back from 18 to 25. We send a few picks to Chicago in exchange for 25, 57, and 129. We also do another trade back with the Jets, going back out of the first round entirely to pick up picks 33 and 44. Caleb Banks is the selection at pick 33. That gets us an A grade. We go D-line once again, 11 picks later. Lee Hunter out of Texas Tech, another A grade. AJ Haulcy, our first safety off the board, 49th overall of LSU, B+ grade for us there from PFF. Then we go Jake Golday, the linebacker out of Cincinnati, for a C+ at 57. The deal we made before the draft actually started was sending Jonathan Greenard to New England for pick 63, and with that, we trade down with the Titans, receiving 66, 142, and 144. And then another trade down. We didn't like the board, but we acquired basically the entire rest of the Atlanta Falcons draft. 79, 114, 197, and 231, 4 picks, 66. At 79, we go cornerback Daylen Everette out of Georgia for a C grade. We get center Logan Jones out of Iowa for an A- at 97. And then we do another deal, sending a slew of picks, frankly, to the Pittsburgh Steelers for pick 99. We trade up and get Thor's boy Jonah Coleman at pick 99.
I was Sonny Weaver Jr. in this one, just maneuvering. We were just driving all around this board.
I want my damn picks back.
I want my picks back.
Jacobe Lane, Jacobe Lane, we take at 114 for a D+ grade, rather, the wide receiver out of USC. And then we do a deal late to break up a few picks and get some more needs addressed, sending 129 for 134 and 208. We get NaDame Tucker, the Western Michigan edge, at 134 for a C- grade. Tanner Koziol, the big tight end out of Houston, for a B- rather, at 197. Enrique Cruz Jr., the tackle out of Kansas, is a D grade at pick 208. Chuck. And then Max Bredeson comes to the Vikings as a pure blocker. That new CJ Ham at pick 235 for a C+ grade, and then gets us a B+ from PFF.
Yeah.
One of the better grades we've gotten. Thor, your thoughts on the draft before we wrap things up?
Maybe we're rounding into form, AJ. We're coming around. We're going into the home stretch. So
at
now
the right time.
Yeah. We're gonna peak at the right time in this pre-draft process. But yeah, that was an interesting one, right? Like, that was kind of unconventional, but the way that the board fell and where we could get value, it just so happened to be getting all that defensive beef there early on with the two interior defensive linemen. So it sort of set about a different path for us than we've taken in some of these other ones. But yeah, you get so many picks there between the second and the fourth round. And with the holes that the Vikings have, we just tried to go, just John Wick style, one by one with them. And I like the haul that we came out, or the Hull C that we came out with, if you will.
Jesus, I love this grouping.
I'll see myself out. Yeah.
I think you mean Hall see myself out. Anyways, God, we'll be here all week. I love this grouping, though. Like, we're giving Brian Flores so many tools here.
So much.
Just raw talent. And obviously, like we said, and like you mentioned, a lot of question marks sort of here with Caleb Banks. But at 33, it doesn't make sense to let him slip anymore. And then doubling up. We don't go offense until Logan Jones and then Jonah Coleman. But we made sure we trade up, get a guy that I know you value pretty highly late in that third round. So I like the draft. A B+ seems pretty solid. But we have a lot more of these over the next month or so before we actually get to the final an official NFL draft. And a reminder for that draft party, Purple Daily Draft Party. Tickets on sale Monday at noon. That's scorenorth.com/draft. It's going to be at the Mystic Lake Hop House, presented by Standard Heating and Air. It's going to be such a fun time. Thor's going to be out there, well as the rest of the Purple Daily guys, Mackey, Judd, Declan. We'll have Jeremiah Searles joining the crew as well live for draft coverage on that first night of the NFL draft. Should be a ton of fun. Tickets on sale Monday at noon. Make sure, don't miss that, because I know they will go fast. A little bit different venue than what we've had at the Fillmore the past couple of years. Mystic Lakes Hop House is such a good venue. You're not going to want to miss it. It's a little more removed from like the Twin Cities, but it is worth the drive. So, very accommodating. The food is great. And plus, Mystic Lake, you have so much going on there. As soon as the draft night is done, the night really isn't going to end. So it's going to be a lot of fun.
Big fan of Mystic Lake and the hop house there. It's just like for folks that haven't been, it's like like more like a Vegas sports bar is like the feel. You know, they have the ticker on the outside with like all the scores and then enormous screens, but right by the stage. How big was that? That one that they had, just this enormous screen, but just screens everywhere. Great venue. And so I guess the tickets going on Monday at noon. It is a smaller room, and then certainly than the Fillmore, so it's going to be more intimate setting, I suppose.
Yeah.
Get in on that one around noon. If you want to come this year, because I would expect those things to go pretty quick. And consider just staying there, like that night or whatever, short drive from the cities, but, we'll keep the party going, into the night after round one, but, I can't wait for that thing. It's going to be an electric night. We'll see how many picks the Vikings end up having, at that time, but they have very clearly prioritized this draft process. So a fascinating offseason for the Vikings leading into what should be a fascinating draft for them as well. But that's all the time that we have for today on Thor Talks Purple. So for producer AJ, I'm Thor. We'll see you next week.